during the summer, you know, when school gets out, the parents, they don't want to just sit and watch the children all summer. So what do? Drop them off at the relatives, or you could drop them off at what you call vacation Bible school. So for like a 2-month period, early in the morning during school hours, the parents would drop their children off at these 501c3 harlot houses to go down to the fellowship hall, to go down into the different corridors of the church, to pretty much have vacation Bible school. They'll give you, you know, food. You'll have different recreation events. You know, very little do you learn about the Bible, or you learn about what it is to please God, the same as it is with the adults in regular church. But in vacation Bible school, we would always hear this song called Father Abraham Had Many Sons, right? So everyone's mind was just all-inclusive, right? In the Bible, all Paul was very exclusionary, even with his people. Look at the elect. You know, 144,000 men out of 7.5 billion people. That's exclusionary, right? But this cliche, Father Abraham had many sons. We're all children of God. We're all God's children. That's a lie. Just like he loves the sinner but hates the sin. That's all lie. It's all cliche. For God so loved the world. He loved the whole entire encompassing earth. That's a lie. Just like with Father Abraham and his many sons. Because Abraham had 8 sons by 3 different women. You had Sarah, you had Hagar, and you had Keturah. And he had 8 sons with these 3 different women, right? So out of these sons, he only chose one son to be the child of God, to not to be the child of the flesh. And I'm going to prove that real quick. Let me continue on. It says in Romans 9:9, for this is the word of promise, at this time I will come, and Sarah shall have a son. And not only this, when Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by her father Isaac. For the children being not yet born, neither having done any good Romans 9:11. For the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of God according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. It was said unto her, the eldest shall serve the younger. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, and Esau have I hated. Right? Because even Esau is the son of who? Sarah. But it says in the book of Hebrews, chapter 12 and verse 6, lest there be any profane person as Esau, who sold his birthright. Right? He was rejected of the Most High, even to this day. So although Isaac and Rebekah, they had twins in Jacob and Esau, it's letting you know right here in Romans 9:10. And not only this, but Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by her father Isaac, for the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose according to God's election might stand, not of works, but of to him that called. It was said unto her, the eldest shall serve the younger. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? God forbid. Right? So, even out of Isaac and Rebekah's twins, it's letting you know right here that one of them was chosen not because he did anything in this physical earth, not according to his works, but it was according to election from the foundations of the earth. The Most High had preordained and predestined one of these twins to be hated and one of them to be beloved of the Most High. Right? Israel, my beloved. It says that in the book of Baruch. Right? But he'd also appointed one of them to be hated, one of them to represent filth, one of them to be a vessel unto dishonor. And that was Esau, Edom, as well as the nations that are round about. But as it pertains to Ishmael, it said, neither because they are all the seed of Abraham are they the children, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Abraham to Isaac to Jacob, right? That's where the blessings, the covenants, the giving of the law, all of that flows from Abraham to Isaac, Jacob. Yahweh is the God of what? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob's name was changed from Israel to Jacob, and he had 12 sons. Those 12 sons today are still the beneficiaries of the covenant, of all the good things. These are still the children of God, the sons of Jacob. 1/3 of them, the elect, right? So these covenants are still intact to this day, right? Let me bring this out in the book of Galatians 4:22 as it pertains to Ishmael. Because out there in Turkey, that's exactly who's being judged by the Most High. They're suffering because, hey, the Most High, he's finally turned his face towards them. And he's issued that judgment on those Ishmaelites. This is Galatians 4:22, and it reads, "For it is written that Abraham had 2 sons, the one by a bondmaid and the other by a free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh." Right? It said, these are not the children of God, but these are the children of the flesh in the book of Romans 9th chapter. We just got into that, right? As it pertains to Abraham's 2 sons, for it is written that Abraham had 2 sons. Who are we talking about right here? We're talking about Ishmael, and we're talking about Isaac. For it is written that Abraham had 2 sons, the one by the bondmaid, the other by a free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh. But he of the free woman was by promise. Which things are an allegory, for these are the 2 covenants. The one from Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage, which is Agar. For this is Agar in Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is and is in bondage with her children. Right? It said that, hey, is who Ishmael answers to, the son of Hagar, the ones that engendered the bondage, they answer to us. But it's saying here, for this is Agar in Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is and is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem, which above is free, which is the mother of us all. Right? So then you know Galatians chapter 4:26 lets you know that Jerusalem, which is a city of peace, Yerushalayim, Jerusalem was a people before it was a place. But it said Jerusalem, which is above is free, which is the mother of us all. So that's our motherland. This is why when we pray, we face the east. Why? Because that's our homeland. You know, niggas in America walk around as Pan-Africanists, when even in the continent of Africa, they don't practice Pan-Africanism. Pan meaning all Africa. No, you have over 56 countries in Africa. And those Arabs in Morocco, they will enslave those Hamites on the interior of Africa. Right? You have Rwanda. You have people calling themselves the Hutu and the Tutsi. They'll slice each other's throat in a minute. They don't have this affinity or this solidarity or this coalition towards one another based upon having the same skin color. In Africa, they don't hardly see a white person. You have the Chinese man and the white man will run, you know, they only 10% of the population, but they'll slap those Africans all around. Why? Because they're not unified. Like I was saying, Hotel Rwanda showed a genocide that was imposed on those people of Rwanda. Of course, it was an outside influence, but they killed each other, the Hutu and the Tutsi. Right? Look at South Africa. Look at Ethiopia. You have civil wars going on. Look at Nigeria. You have civil wars going on. You know, tribes that have contempt and hostile attitudes towards one another. But here in America, since we're homeborn slaves, we were deceived into thinking that, hey, just because someone had the same hue of pigmentation of melanin, that's your brother. When the Most High actually separated men and made us diverse. When you're dealing with Noah's and his 3 sons, all of them were men of color getting off the ark. There were no white people getting off the ark. But what did the Most High do? He actually divided the earth up according to the number of the children of Israel. This is how these nations have gotten their portion. And he made nations diverse. Nations have their own gods, they have their own customs, they have their own traditions, they have their own history. So they don't subscribe to this simple idea of, hey, just because people are on a particular landmass, the nations round about, they are a little more sophisticated. They're not going to subscribe to an idea that just because there are people in a certain landmass on a certain continent that all share the same phenotype or complexion as them, that's their brothers. Why? Because the Most High actually put spirit in men, right? The man names the land, right? And the people that are in the land, they're named after the man. But in America, this gets blurred. Why? Because America Vespucci, he's the progenitor of all Americans, but our people call themselves after two Europeans, Leo Scipio Africanus and Americo Vespucci. So this is a people that's been robbed and spoiled. You know, that's why I opened this up with Isaiah 1 and 3. The ox knoweth his owner, the ass his master's crib. But our people don't know who they are. Therefore, they don't know who their brothers are. They don't know who their enemies are. They're subscribed to all type of frivolous doctrines. Like, hey, wear this African medallion. You're my African. You're African, and all 56 people, all 56 countries on that continent, those are your people. No, that's foolishness. And we serve a God of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. He gave us an unction to know all these things. Right? It said, my people do not know, my people do not consider. The elect, they're going to be prudent. They're going to consider. Hey, I'm not African. And these Africans, these are not my people. Hey, and it's a lot of information to substantiate that fact. But this is what will separate the Lord's elect from the 2/3. They're going to be oblivious to the facts. They're just going to operate on emotions. And most of all, the Most High Spirit ain't dwelling with them. He turned them over to a reprobate mind. Right? He gave them to their own heart's delusion. That's what comes with disobedience. And the Most High, he's the author of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. If you're operating in a reprobate mind with no discernment, that's because the Most High has rejected you. And 2/3 of our people are rejected. It says here, as it pertains to Ishmael, going back to the crisis in Turkey, it says in Galatians 4:28, now we, brethren, as Isaac was, are the children of the promise. But as then, he that was born after the flesh persecuted them that was born after the spirit, even so it is now. So that's the Arabs against Jake, the Arabs against the Israelites. Like I said before, you had a transatlantic slave trade, you had a sub-Saharan slave trade, where the Ishmaelites, as well as the Arabs, the Ishmaelites, who are the Arabs, as well as the Africans, so Israelites within the interiors of Africa, the sub-Saharan slave trade, for a period longer than the transatlantic slave trade. This is an aspect of history that a lot of those men that go to these Nation of Islam or these little mosques, bowing, hitting your head 5, 6, 7 times a day, praying in the name of Allah, this is history that y'all don't know. Why? Because you've discontinued from your heritage. And just because Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali came with black man's religion, message to the black man in the 60s, yeah, I could understand why in the 60s so-called blacks would reject plantation Christianity and look at Islam as a better option. At least within their doctrine, they say the white man is the devil. You know, they can actually identify their enemy, gathering themselves together. You know, they don't do the so-called interracial dating. They have a lot of things that are on par, on course. Why? Because they're following the ways of Abraham. You know, when you see in the Middle East, those women cover their heads, wearing their burqas. Why? Because they're following the Abrahamic laws, as all women should. The men wear beards, as should all men, because we are under the Abrahamic religions as well. Right? You have halal and haram as far as their dietary laws. Certain foods they cannot eat, like pork, shrimp, crab, lobster. Yes, I can see why in the 60s our people would look at that as an alternative that would reform them, more so than Christianity. But the scriptures say, have no other God before me, idolatry. That's what our people are getting involved in when they go observe the ways of the Ishmaelites, which are our enemies, right? Let me bring this out one more time. It says, this is Galatians 4:27. For it is written, rejoice, thou barren that bearest not. Break forth and cry, thou that travailest not. For the desolate hath many more children than she which hath an husband. So it's letting you know in the earth, those Ishmaelites, they're more in number, right? Hagar is the mother of Ishmael, but it's saying that they're greater in number. That's one thing that Catholicism boasts in, as well as what you call Islam. They boast in numbers, right? They boast in how many members that they have worldwide, how many people have converted. Because one thing that they never bring forth when they talk about the numbers for Catholicism, the numbers for Islam, is something called the Crusades. Just like in Christianity, you had the Crusades, wherein the so-called white man went throughout the earth with a Bible and a sword. You either converted to his religion or you were killed. The same thing happened with Ishmael, the Arabs, in the Middle East, in the interiors of Africa. Because the Middle East, was created by stenographers, map makers. But it's really a misnomer, because the Middle and the East is two directions. But as far as northeastern Africa, that Arab land, right, a lot of that was conquered with the sword. If you go to West Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, the Ivory Coast, you'll find a lot of those Hamites subscribe to the religion of Islam. Why? Because those Arabs went into their regions the same way, with that Quran and the sword, right? They had crusades the same way Christianity did, right? So, this movement right now, this exceeding great army, like it says in Ezekiel 37:10, hey, it's a non-contact sport. Fishing is a non-contact sport. It says that in the book of, is it Jeremiah 16:16? He said, I will send out many fishers, and they shall fish them. Then he'll send out many hunters. But the fact that I'm making is, we're not waking up our people by intimidating them. By saying, hey, you're either going to convert or die. The way that the Crusades in Christianity went about converting those people. The way that Ishmael went about during his Islamic crusades to spread Islam around the whole entire earth, right? Let me go ahead. It says, for it is written, rejoice thou barren that bearest not. Break forth and cry, thou that travailest not. For the desolate hath many more children than she which has an husband. Now we, brethren, as Isaac are the children of the promise. But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the spirit, even so it is now, right? That's Arabs versus Israelites. You wonder why Ishmael, even in this time, you go into their stores, they have contempt towards us. Why? Because they know our history, going all the way back to Abraham, right? Even to this day, let me bring this out one more time. It says, now brethren, as Isaac are the children of the promise. But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the spirit, even so it is now. Right? It said he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the spirit. Even to this day, this is exactly the state of affairs. How you doing, brother? You know, and this is something that a lot of our people don't take into consideration when they're dealing with the nations that are round about, right? They forget that we have a very rich heritage with these nations round about. A lot of people want to look at our history, starting with the transatlantic slave trade. But even prior to the transatlantic slave trade, our people had relationships. We have a history historically with the nations that are round about. And just because our people want to identify the white man chiefly as our main oppressor. Why? Because the transatlantic slave trade going forward. A lot of people, we don't know our history prior to the transatlantic slave trade. Why? Because that's in the Bible. See what I'm saying? We just didn't go from the interiors of Africa being sold by our kings and queens to be brought over here. Like I said, the Arabs, you know, the biblical Ishmaelites, they actually sold us as well during what you call the sub-Saharan slave trade, right? The only place where you can buy a slave right now on the earth is in the Middle East, right? Libya, you have Muammar Gaddafi in that land, but right now, with him being taken out of power, those Arabs are selling those Africans, they have them in bondage. Just to let you know the persona of those so-called Arabs. They understand that we're not their people historically, right? This is Genesis chapter 17 and verse 19. And this is going right back into Abraham and his wife Sarah and his wife Hagar and the children that they had. All right, this is Genesis 17 and 19. It says, and God says, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt name him Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and I will make him fruitful, and I will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. Right? So right now, Ishmael, he said 12 princes will come out of Ishmael. Why? Because they are a son of Abraham. Father Abraham had many sons. He had 8 sons with 3 different women, right? But it said as far as Ishmael, let me let you know, it said, behold, I have blessed him, and I will make him fruitful, and I will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this time set in the next year. Right? So right now, even though those Ishmaelites, those Arabs, even though the kingdom to come, the promises, the covenants, they don't pertain to them. They did have a constellation because they were sons of Abraham. It said 12 princes shall come out of Ishmael. That's why if you go to the Middle East, they have oil fields. They have wealth. The Burj Khalifa, right? The tallest building in Dubai, right? That's all representative of their great wealth. The Most High making good on his word as it pertains to his son Ishmael, right? But it says, but my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this time in the next year, right? Let me get this in the book of Psalms 105 and 5. It just hit me. Let me get this in the book Psalms 105 and 5. Right? So this is why the Ishmaelites, even to this day, they don't fool with Jake. Psalms 105 and 5. It said, remember his marvelous work that he had done, his wonders and the judgments of his mouth. O ye of Abraham, his servant, ye children of Jacob, his chosen. He is the Lord our power. His judgments are in all the earth. He has remembered his covenant forever, the word which he has commanded to 1,000 generations, which covenant he had made with Abraham, and his oath unto Isaac, and confirmed the same unto Jacob for a law, and to Israel as an everlasting covenant. To Israel as an everlasting covenant, right? The old covenants, right? As well as the new covenants apply with the same people the old covenants were made with. as pursuant to Hebrews 8:8 and Jeremiah 31:31. But as it pertains to those Ishmaelites, they are not the children of the promise or the covenants. The scriptures call them children of the flesh, right? Going all the way back to Abraham, actually giving Hagar her walking papers, giving her a bottle of water and telling her to take her baby and ride out, right? Ishmael, they understand this history, you know, and they have contempt with the children of the promise. Why? Because the Most High established his covenants with us, his promises with us, and not them. You know, this is why when a Jake go into those mosques, they call you a bead. A bead, that's their derogatory name, meaning slave, right? You go into, you look at the Nation of Islam. They're not even recognized by Orthodox Islam. You know, where's the Nation of Islam? If they go over to the Middle East practicing that shit, they'll get stoned to death. If the Nation of Islam, they don't get acknowledged by those Shiite and those Sunni Muslims, right? Wallace Fard, Muhammad, and all that other stuff. No, those Ishmaelites will look at those niggas that's saying that they subscribe to the religion of Islam like y'all are watered down, y'all are the generic version, y'all are counterfeit. Why? Because Ishmael understands who his brother is. And he understands that those Jake that are walking around with bow ties on and final calls and bean pies, y'all are not Ishmaelites, but rather y'all are the seed of Isaac. Y'all are the seed of Jacob. Y'all are Israelites. But that's why we come out here to wake up our people to who they truly are. Right? The ox knoweth his own, and the answer is his master's crib. But Israel does not know. It said, my people do not consider. And right here, we're on the cusp of Valentine's Day. You know, our people are beast of burden in this society, so they're always looking forward to the next holiday, the next pagan holiday, so that they can actually take a day off of their burdens at their jobs and kick their feet up. And most of these holidays, not only are they set up to pillage our pockets, we're oppressed. A lot of our people don't even have the means to pay their bills, to fill up their refrigerators, to get caught up on their utilities, but they'll go in debt to partake in any of these heathenistic customs. From Christmas, you know, one right now that our women get in Valentine's Day, right? Look up the street here, and what do you have? You have these booths being set up, these tents, right? Look just right across the street from where I am. What do you have there? Let me see if I could pan in real quick. Well, I can't. All right, but you have those teddy bears underneath that tent, right? Those pink teddy bears where our people are wise to do evil, like it says in Jeremiah 4:22, right? We're not even supposed to be touching anything that's unclean, anything that's supposed to be sacrificed unto idols. But our people will try to profit in this society. They'll go and they'll try to buy 200 dolls, 200 teddy bears. They'll make baskets. Why? Because they understand our people are wise to do evil. Our people are rebellious. They're real transgressive. When it comes down to following the Most High's words and doing what he says, a lot of our people, that's their Achilles heel. You know, they don't want to come back into the knowledge of Yahweh while Yahweh Shah. And there are men that the Most High actually sends out to let them know what it is to please the Father. You don't have to wing it. We'll let you know by the Spirit of truth what it is that you need to do to obtain salvation. Or like I said, the elect, they're going to have the faith, they're going to have the desire to please their Heavenly Father, right? This is why they're going to seek out the old path, like it says in Jeremiah 16:16. Let me start off with that real quick, right? This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 16, and verse 16. I'm sorry, I'm going to Jeremiah 6:16. This is Jeremiah chapter 6 and verse 16, and it reads, Thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the way and see, and ask for the old path, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. I also set watchmen over you, saying, hearken unto the sound of the trumpet, but they said, we will not hearken. Right? Let me bring this out one more time. Stand ye in the way and see, and ask for the old path. Where is the good way, and walk therein? And ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. Right? The majority of our people, this is what they said in their mind's eye. They said, we will not walk therein. Right? Even though we're out here, they make a conscious decision to reject the word. We're telling them what they should do and what they should refrain from, but they're not trying to hear it. Why? Because the Most High hasn't brought those judgments down. Right? They're still in their mirth. Right? It says in their affliction they'll seek me early in the book of Hosea. Right? But while the sun is still shining, while they still yet have liberty, they're going to mock, they're going to scoff, they're going to cast this behind their back. Just like it said in Jeremiah 6:16. Right? This is Jeremiah chapter 32, verse 30. It said, for the children of Israel and the children of Judah have only done evil before me from their youth. For the children of Israel have only provoked me to anger with the work of their hands, said the Lord. For this city has been to me as a provocation of mine anger and of my fury from the day that they built it even unto this day, that I should remove it from before my face. Right? It said the Most High will dwell in the midst of Israel in Joel 2:27. But us being put into captivity is us being hidden from the Most High's face. Why? For us being rebellious, for us being transgressive, hard-hearted. Right? Let me bring this out one more time. It says, for the children of Israel and the children of Judah have only done evil before me from their youth. For the children of Israel have only provoked me to anger with the work of their hands, said the Lord. For this city hath been to me as a provocation of mine anger and of my fury from the day that they built it even to this day, that I should remove it from before my face. Because of all the evil of the children of Israel and of all the children of Judah, which they have done to provoke me to anger, they, their kings, their princes, their priests, and their prophets, and the men of Judah, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And they have turned unto me the back and not the face. Though I taught them rising up early and teaching them, yet they have not hearkened to receive instructions. Right? They have not hearkened to receive instruction. Right? It said that they set their back to the Most High. They don't want to hear it. And not their face. And that provokes our power. Right? This is why we've been brought low. Because the Most High made good on his word that he professed in the law of Moses. That he would bring us low. That he would sell us to our enemies. Let me bring that out in the book of Baruch real quick. This is the book of Baruch, chapter 4 and verse 6. It says, you were sold to the nations not for your destruction, but because ye moved God to wrath. Ye were delivered unto the enemies, for ye provoked him that made you. Baruch chapter 4 verse 6 one more time. Ye were sold to the nations not for your destruction, but because ye moved God to wrath. Ye were delivered unto the enemies, for ye provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils and not to Yahweh. Right? Right? You provoke the Most High. Right? By getting into this idolatry. Have no other God before me. Right? This is something that our people don't understand is smoked in our power's nose. Right? They don't understand that the Heavenly Father, he's beautified when we obey him. We were created, the whole duty of man. It says that in Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. The whole duty of man. This is why we were created, to serve him. And when I say we, that's Israelites. All nations cannot serve their Heavenly Father because he didn't give them instructions on how to serve him. Right? The nations, that's why he gave them idols. Right? This is Sirach, Ecclesiastes in the Old Testament, chapter 12, verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. The Israelite man, woman, and child, this is our whole duty, to fear God and keep his commandments. Right? And it says in the scriptures that none of his commandments are grievous. Right? But a lot of our people, they don't want to get into order.